Well, how about that Michigan ground game? 30 straight runs, unbelievable. Or 20 runs in the second half, never even passing the ball. 20 straight runs. They threw the ball once. There was a penalty on that play. So basically, no passing in the second half, no Jim Harbaugh, and they win at Penn State. This is post-game live reaction right here. It is live, Locked On Big Ten.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I am Craig Sheeman. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day during the week. And here we are live on a Saturday. Glad you could join us for this. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jace case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50 or more infections. Get yours today at jasemedical.com. That's J-A-S-E medical.com. So no Jim Harbaugh for the game at Michigan State today, or at Penn State today. However, Michigan ends up winning 24-15. It was a hard-fought, physical football game. We will do a deep dive into that, what this means for Penn State moving forward, what this means for Michigan moving forward without Jim Harbaugh. We'll also take a look at the rest of the Big Ten as well. Your comments are available here. I'll get to some of those live here on Locked On Big Ten on YouTube. And also, we'll, before we're done, take a quick first peek ahead to next week. So be sure to subscribe down below and follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcasts. That way you'll get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. We're out every day, Monday through Friday, and then some, plus the live ones on the weekend. So the day started really interesting for Michigan. Of course, the Big Ten suspended Michigan football coach Jim Harbaugh yesterday for the rest of the regular season as punishment for the on-site scouting SpyGate sign-stealing scandal, right? It's a mouthful. A lot going on. The school failed to get an immediate ruling today for a temporary restraining order that was filed last night. Hearing for a temporary restraining order is reportedly on the docket for 9 a.m. on Friday, right ahead of the Maryland game. That's the next game for the Wolverines here. And, of course, the Ohio State game is the following week. So that hearing will be in Washtenaw County Circuit Court. That's Ann Arbor, basically. Michigan released a statement. Part of it said, looking forward to presenting our case next week, where we intend to demonstrate that the Big Ten has not acted illegally and has not been treated fairly in this matter. Offensive coordinator Sharon Moore, he's the acting head coach now, while ever Harbaugh is out, and he won today. He's 2-0. He's been the interim head coach. Remember, Harbaugh has now been suspended a total of 4 games so far this year. Michigan wins 24-15, and it was interesting in the beginning. Look, Penn State came ready to play. They did. I won't blame them for that. The crowd was amped up. Everything was great. In fact, I think it gave Michigan some problems at the beginning. There was the false start, run stuffed at the line of scrimmage. There was a sack, and Michigan ended up punting away. The crowd was really into it at the beginning. But then Penn State, they go 3 and out right away. Their run is stuffed by the defensive line of Michigan. Couple of incomplete passes, and they punt. So both sides are feeling each other out a little bit. Michigan, second possession, they go on a 3 and out again, but there's almost they fumbled the ball. Corum fumbled it, but they were able to keep it. It was an incomplete pass. Chop Robinson's putting pressure on J.J. McCarthy. They ended up punting the ball. And then it was Penn State's second possession of the game that they started moving the ball and looked pretty decent, actually. And there was the play where Drew Aller busted out and ran down to the 13-yard line. They had 5 first downs on that drive. I thought it was arguably thinking about here as we're talking live afterward. I think it was the best drive of the game for Penn State, to be honest with you. And interestingly enough, it was the first time the Michigan defense had seen a snap inside the 10-yard line all year. Nobody had been like first and goal on them before like that. Penn State goes into that T formation, a couple variations on that, and got to a first and goal. And Michigan ends up holding firm with that line of scrimmage, that front 7. And so Alex Felkings has to come on. He kicks a short 20-yard field goal, and Penn State gets on the board first 3-0. That was like with 2 minutes to go in the first quarter. So I told you, if you caught any of our podcasts throughout the week, I think I predicted on the record here, Michigan 28-14, was 24-15. And I said it would be a lot of long drives, a lot of running game, and that meant fewer possessions. And that's exactly what happened in this football game. So then Michigan takes over, and they're still struggling a little bit, but they made a couple of changes now by their third drive of the game. J.J. McCarthy starts rolling out more, likes to roll out and throw. And then they had seven offensive linemen in their formation on the field now. And that's where things changed for Michigan. They got a little more beef on the line of scrimmage. Samaj Morgan had that 19-yard pass catch and run. There was a play where Penn State had 12 men on the field, got caught in a bad substitution. And then Blake Corum scores on a 3-yard touchdown. So they put together a 9-play, 75-yard drive. Michigan football doing what Michigan does. And with 11:56 to go in the second quarter, they get the touchdown. Now they're in the lead 7-3. Back the other way, Katron Allen for Penn State got 9 yards on first down on that next possession, and they still punted. 9 yards on first down, and they can't get the first down. They end up punting the ball. J.J. McCarthy's now starting to get into a rhythm here a little bit in the second quarter. Still rolling out some more, getting some completions. The Blake Corum bounced out for that 44-yard run down the left side of the 21. And Michigan still had to burn a timeout there because the noise affected them. It was still a factor in the game. And then coming out of that timeout, 3rd and 11, Donovan Edwards, boom, 22 yards for a touchdown. That was the first, I don't want to say backbreaker because that was early on in the game. But Michigan's up 14-3 at that point with 6 minutes to go in the half. Another, 6-play, 78-yard drive. But Penn State, they're not down. They come back. Katron Allen has a 34-yard run to the Michigan 41, but that drive stalls. They got a 4th and 6 at the 37, and then Drew Aller to Caden Saunders for a first down at the 24-yard line. Okay, good play by Penn State, bouncing back in this thing. They end up with a 4th and 1 from the 15. They do that pitch and pass thing. Katron Allen back to Drew Aller. They get the first down to the 11-yard line. So a little trickery, if you will, on a otherwise smash mouth football game. And then Drew Aller runs in for an 11-yard touchdown. They go for 2 to try to cut it to 3 there. They don't get it, but they still have to be feeling good about themselves. It's 14-9. Few seconds left before the half. That's how we go into the half. And a nice drive, 10 plays, 75 yards. Again, Penn State, 2 really good drives in the first half. I thought they had to be feeling pretty good about themselves going into the locker room. It's a 14-9 game at that point. By the way, both teams rushed for over 100 yards in the first half. These defenses don't give up stuff like that. So both sides, it was a grounded pound game. And the first half kind of set the tone for the second half. Penn State comes out in the second half, their first drive, 3rd and long right away. Aller runs for the first down, but then the next time he runs, he fumbles the ball, and Michigan recovers it. So a rare turnover for Penn State, and Michigan gets it. And then at that point, there's a lot of running. Some of it stopped, some of it breaks free. There was the 4th and 1 on that first drive of the second half that McCarthy rolled out to the right to pass, ended up running for the first down to the 20-yard line. He ran for another first down on that drive, got to a 1st and goal. Michigan got away with a hold on that play, though. Remember that? They made a big point about it on the broadcast. So it's 3rd and goal from the 10. Donovan Edwards, he's down to the 5, and Michigan has to settle for a field goal at this point, a 22-yard field goal. So, again, Penn State kind of hold. They bend, they don't break. It's 17-9 Michigan, 3.5 minutes to go in the third. It was a 13-play, only 45 yards on that drive for Michigan. 13 plays, but only 45 yards. 12 straight runs on that drive. It was 12 runs and a kick. That was the drive. And by the way, it was the first time that Penn State had given up any points in the third quarter all year. Both Michigan and Penn State come into this game today having never given up any points, 0 points in the third quarter all season long. So that was the first time anybody gave up anything in the third. Penn State takes over. Big 3rd and 3. They get a pass. Then there's a 3rd and 8. They get 6. It's 4th and 2, right? 4th and 2 on their own 45. Looks like they're going for it. They're in a bad formation. Play clock's running down. They got to call a timeout. And then they come out and punt the football, which I think was the right move. They got Michigan down to the 2.5-yard line with that. So they flipped the field there. Good call by James Franklin. But I'm curious, maybe you too, if they don't kind of mess up their formation and have the play clock run down, are they running a play there, or were they just trying to draw Michigan off? I'm not sure. It looked like they were going for it, called the timeout, thought about it again, and decided to kick the ball, get Michigan down to their own 2. So we go to the 4th-yard line, or the 4th quarter. Michigan can't do anything with this drive. They end up punting. Got a lot of punts going on here at this point now. Daquan Hardy returns it to the 50, but Penn State holds. So that knocks them back. I think Michigan got away with a late hit on that play too, by the way. So Penn State starts to drive at their own 29. They do that flea flicker back to Drew Aller, and then he throws to nobody. And they call him for intentional grounding. And what a bad play for Penn State at that particular point. So now it's 3rd and 13 on their own 25. They try a long pass downfield, which is Penn State's weakness. They don't or they can't throw long. Just not even close. Incomplete pass on the left side. The boos started coming out. And this is something I talked about again on this podcast last week. If you want to go back when I previewed this game, I predict this very scenario, kind of a grinded out game. Michigan starts getting out. Penn State doesn't throw the ball or doesn't throw the ball well, and I predicted the Boo Birds would be coming out. I mean, that crowd was so intense. It was a factor in the first half of the football game, but you can sense as the game went on, the frustration, and Michigan took the crowd out of the game at Beaver Stadium. I mean, think about that for a moment. That never happens, and the Boo Birds coming out. So Michigan takes over on their own 31, and again, they just keep 20 straight runs at this point. And in fact, there was 1 point left when they take over there. By the time they had run the ball 20 straight times, they had 174 yards on the ground at that point. Penn State had given up 174 yards in the last 4 games combined. That's how good their rush defense is. But today, Michigan was able to run the ball. Interestingly enough, at this point, J.J. McCarthy he threw a ball. Breaking news. It was incomplete, but there was a penalty on the flag, so it doesn't count. So at one point, Michigan had run the ball 30 straight plays. They did not throw a pass in the second half. Wonder what Jim Harbaugh was thinking watching that on TV, right? I mean, somebody else, Sharon Moore comes in. He's calling the plays. Would they have done that if Harbaugh was on the sideline? I mean, they probably would have been close. I don't know if they would have been, 20 or 30 straight runs, but, different guy in charge, different play call. Just take what's there and go home with the dub. That's exactly what happened here. So a lot of interesting stuff going on back and forth here. Both teams stuffing each other. We got a lot of punts, a lot of 3-and-outs. And there was the Penn State 4th and 6 on their own 30 with 4:25 to go. And they have 2 timeouts in their pocket. And they go for it. Very surprised right there. Very surprised. And, of course, it's an incomplete pass to nowhere. And one thing I think I noticed with Drew Aller, I don't know, he doesn't seem to have in this game, didn't seem to have a lot of confidence passing the ball. He's just kind of guiding it, pushing it a little bit. So anyway, that was my observation watching him there. And then right there, Michigan gets the ball back, 30-yard line. Blake Corum, boom, touchdown. Game fell over at that point. 4:15 to go, 24-9. Even though Drew Aller and Theo Johnson hook up for a touchdown later, they go for 2. They don't get it, so they're still down by 9, still down by 2 scores. They don't get the onside kick, and Michigan wins. So the game kind of went the way I thought it would. It was a big question mark going in for Penn State. They needed to get one of the 2 against Ohio State and Michigan. They don't get it. And 2 years in a row, they lose to Michigan and Ohio State. And, depending on what happens the rest of the season, those will be the only 2 losses for Penn State again. Nittany Lion fans just got to be beside themselves. It's too bad. This is a really, really good football team. They're just in a division with 2 of the best teams in the country. Anyway, I see we got like 70 comments here. I'm going to try and get to some here in just a moment. Always welcome your comments live on YouTube. And also on Twitter, we're there at Talk Big Ten. Always love to hear from you there. That's the number 10. Feel free to join me there at any time. And also don't forget our website, talkbig10.com with the number 10. All right, we'll get to some of your comments. I want to hear what you have to say. And also, we'll take a look at the rest of the Big Ten with what's going on and what this means moving forward for both Penn State and Jim Harbaugh and Michigan. All that on a live version of Locked On Big Ten on a Saturday. Stay with us. We'll have the rest of this in just 1 minute. All right. Let me tell you about eBay Motors. They got passion, drive, and patience. It's what brings home the winning trophy. It keeps your ride or die alive. It's what keeps your team together if you're playing some football. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, everything they have that you need to make your car look cool and run better, for sure. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. And they have over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts that you need and all the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. So where are we moving forward? I don't know. I know a lot of people are going to be upset with Penn State and James Franklin, and, he's going to hear it this week, and they can't throw the ball downtown. And I've always said, I don't know that's a Drew Aller situation. I think you need another receiver to take the top off, somebody with some speed that can stretch it out, because Michigan's defense kept creeping in more and more and load the box and closer to the line of scrimmage as the game went on. And it was just brutal for Penn State. They couldn't really make any progress. And so I think that's the number one, number two, and number three thing that Penn State needs. Meanwhile, moving forward with Michigan, they got 2 more games left. At Maryland, and then at home against Ohio State. And it still remains to be seen whether Jim Harbaugh will be on the sidelines for him. Again, right now, the suspension is in effect. There will be a hearing with a judge on Friday, and the judge may say, all right, Jim Harbaugh can coach until we figure this out, or maybe not. So we'll keep it tuned in here to Lockdown Big Ten. We've been talking about it all the time. We'll be your source for that story for sure. Also, let's take a look at some other games going on right now. 2 minutes to go. Illinois is up 42-34 over the Indiana Hoosiers. That is going on. So a high scoring, if you had the over in that one, 42-34 with 2:49 left in that one. Both teams have been struggling this year, but both coming off a win last week. And then Maryland and Nebraska tied at 10, winding down the fourth quarter. And that's a big game for both teams. Both teams trying to get to be bowl eligible. Of course, Maryland has lost 4 straight after starting out 5-0. Nebraska had won 5 of 6 before losing last week to Michigan State. And some other games. I am absolutely going to check out this game when I'm done here. I'm going to watch Rutgers at Iowa. Iowa's ranked 22nd in the country with no offense to speak of. The over-under at FanDuel, 28. You think there's going to be 4 touchdowns in this game total? I don't. I'm still taking the under in that one. So we'll see how that plays out. Northwestern is at Wisconsin. Wisconsin trying to get bowl eligible. Don't forget, Northwestern still has a shot at getting in a bowl as well. And there's a doubleheader on NBC tonight. And that is Minnesota at Purdue at 3:30, actually just getting ready to get going. And of course, at 7:30 tonight is Michigan State versus number 1 Ohio State. So let's take a peek at some of the comments we got going here as we are live on Lockdown. I got over like 100 of them here, so I'll try and get to whatever I can. Let's see. Ragnar says all the Ohio State fans are on all the Ohio State channels talking trash because they are upset and scared of Michigan. Let's see. Mark says, I think Michigan stayed on the ground because it's something they can trust without Harbaugh on the sidelines. there could be some truth to that. Although these coaches are used to it. I mean, they've coached 3 games together without them at the beginning of the season, but I think there's some value in what you say there. Just keep it simple. Don't make any mistakes. They are strong enough, big enough, and powerful enough to go ahead and beat Penn State without putting the ball at risk and without throwing the ball a lot. So you may be true. Kellen checking in with a go blue. Let's see, another go blue from Scott. And let's see, more coming in. Original Mike, why would you take JJ out of the mix in the second half? Can't win a natty with that kind of performance on offense. Well, I mean, look, we know JJ McCarthy can do it. He's completing 75% of his passes when he does throw. And that's one thing I've noticed about watching Michigan this year. They just do what the situation requires. You remember when a lot of people were complaining about Michigan early in the year that they weren't blowing people out? I mean, they were only winning 35-7 or 32-6. Why weren't they covering the spread? Why weren't they blowing people up for 50? They were just doing what they needed to do. Spreading the ball out, letting Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards run. An occasional pass to Roman Wilson here and there when needed. Safe passes, quick decision-making by J.J. McCarthy. So I just think that's what they can win with any style that they want. The only style we really haven't seen Michigan do is no tempo or quick tempo, just no huddle, quick tempo, that kind of thing. You don't see a lot of that, but they can win in any style, and they're strong enough to just push you off the ball with the running game. Let's see here. The 90s babies checking in. Let's go blue. Karma's a gangsta. Well, we'll see. Yeah. Dr. Detroit, this game was not even close. No, well, you know what? It was. I mean, the first half, 14-9, and it was, but Michigan just, they just, like they said, they just strangle you. And when they came out with that drive in the third quarter, just kept it on the ground, and then a quick defensive stand next, and the other team is demoralized. They feel like we can't do anything here. And Michigan warmed down a little bit at the end of the game. I thought Penn State went toe-to-toe with them a lot better in the game, early in the game, but later in the game, not so much. TC Attorney says that was the second best defense in the conference, and we told my thing just skipped. Those were the top 2 defenses in the conference and the top 2 defenses in the country. And Michigan was able to outpower them. Nicolo, several third downs without passing in this game. It's almost malpractice. They just did whatever they want. They just did what they want. And Mr. Kennedy, the refs let Penn State gouge Corum's eyes all game. Was his face bloodied? I didn't see that. I was not aware of that. And Jay says, I do love some of the play calling, but and love the result. Yeah, I thought some of the play calling was very interesting going on with Penn State. I think they made some mistakes with play calling late in the game. That was my opinion on that. All right. Thank you for all the comments. I just can't get to them all. Absolutely love them. Thank you for participating. And a lot of you hit me up with the comments on YouTube, whether we're live or not. And so I always like to check those out. Always appreciate that. We will take our first quick peek at what's coming up next weekend. Can you believe we only have 2 regular season games left in the season? We will check that out real quick right here on Locked On Big Ten. I want to tell you about Jace Medical. Jace Medical provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use mailed right to your door. All it takes to get a Jace case is to fill out a simple online form, and in some cases, you could jump on with a quick call with one of the board-certified physicians, and you can get ongoing care from those physicians for any treatment-related questions. This is doctor-created and doctor-recommended. And it is it's great to have for an emergency. We've seen supply chains with pandemics. So I live out here in Hurricane Central. They have all kinds of medications now. They even have ED medications if you need those, up to a year's supply of Cialis, Viagra, and Revatio. So whatever you need, they can get it for you and get it mailed to your door. So all you need to do is go to jacemedical.com and enter the code LOCKEDON at checkout for a $20 discount on your order. That's promo code locked on at JASEmedical.com, JaceMedical.com. So what do you say we take a quick peek ahead as we're going live here on Locked On Big Ten. And again, thanks for checking us out here today. Tell your friends about us, man. I'll give you some information here in just a second. As we look ahead to next week, the Minnesota Golden Gophers are at Ohio State. All the Big Ten games, game times are to be determined at this point between TV and who's interested in what with the schedule. And, of course, the log jam in the West. Minnesota is at Ohio State. Minnesota is a solid defensive team. Maybe that's one of those games. It's a slow start, but Ohio State's playing great football right now. Travion Henderson makes a big difference, and Marvin Harrison Jr. The combination is just lethal. So, look, we fully expect Ohio State, I think, to win that game, but I think Minnesota makes their presence felt a little bit in the beginning, maybe slows the game down a little bit early on. Michigan is at Maryland. Again, so if Maryland, let's double check their score. Oh, I see Indiana has just scored. Illinois 42-40. Indiana going for a 2-point conversion right now, trying to tie this game out with 28 seconds to go. And they do it right there. Live. 42-42, 28 seconds to go. The Hoosiers have come from behind to tie things up at Illinois. And it looks like Maryland and Nebraska are still tied at 10. Late in that game. But Maryland, by the way, so if they lose here today, that's 5 straight losses, 5-5, and then they got Michigan next week. I mean, that's some tough sledding for the Terps. Rutgers is at Penn State. Does Penn State have a little bit of a hangover from their loss today? It happened last time. They got beat by Ohio State, a game they were up big for, and then they came out and Indiana was tied with them with the 90 seconds to go in a game at Penn State. Does the same thing happen next week? Do they have a hangover against a very tough Rutgers punchy in the mouth football team? That's a game to keep an eye on for real. Illinois at Iowa. Michigan State is at Indiana. Both of those teams kind of on the same level, fighting their way through and trying to get a few dubs down the stretch of the season. Purdue is at Northwestern. I'd take the over in that one. Purdue gives up a lot of points. Nebraska is at Wisconsin. So that's going to be an important game. And depending on how things finish out here today, both teams could be fighting for bowl eligibility unless they take care of it today and get a win. But if they don't, next week's game's going to be almost desperate for one of those teams to get the win. All right. There are a ton of ways for you to check us out. If you are just discovering us here live on Saturday, totally appreciate it. We are every Monday through Friday, we crank out all these podcasts. There's an audio version if you only like the audio ones, wherever you get your podcasts, and the video version on YouTube, whatever you want at your leisure. Check us out. But they get released. The audio version is up there as early as 4 a.m. on each weekday, and the video one comes out about 6 o'clock, and you can watch them anytime after that. But to make sure you get them, make sure you subscribe before you leave. Down low, hit the subscribe button and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app. And, of course, that allows you to get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Coming up next week and Monday, we will have the latest on Jim Harbaugh. Of course, the hearing isn't until Friday. It'll be in the news all week. Trust me. We'll have a recap of this weekend, everything that went on in the later afternoon games here today, and prepare you for the next to last week of the regular season in the Big Ten. It is hard to believe. It makes me sad, to be honest with you. So we'll have all that coming up. I also invite you to check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast for the latest on everything going on in sports. Have yourself a great day, great rest of the weekend. Can't wait to talk to you next time. I'm Craig Sheeman for Locked On Big Ten.
You are